Things have been difficult for many of us, but with Cerebral, high-quality mental health care is accessible and affordable. Cerebral provides therapy, counseling, coaching, and medication management, all online, so you can get mental health care from the comfort of your own home. For listeners of this program, you can receive 65% off your first month at Cerebral.com/wellness. Again, that's Cerebral.com/wellness for 65% off your first month. Join Cerebral's mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, author Lynn Catalano talks about discovering her father's narcissism.
When I was first trying to figure out what was happening with my father, things he would say or do would make me look around as if there were hidden cameras. People were standing room only. That's how many people were at her funeral. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm riding in the car with him days after the funeral. And he turns to me and he says, I don't know where you're going to have my funeral. If that many people showed up for Mom, I can't even imagine how many will come for me.
Today on the show, author Lynn Catalano talks about discovering her father's narcissism. Stay close.
Hey, it's Lynn Catalano, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode last weekend with actor and writer John Flynn. John has a new book out right now called Baked, Sex, Drugs, and Alternative Comedy. And it's so great because he was in New York in his 20s, right? So it doesn't really matter if you have a lot of money and they're running around and he's at UCB with Amy Poehler and all these incredible people. And the story is so great. He wanted to send his acting troupe to San Francisco, and he wanted to be able to pay for it. And in order to pay for it, he started a little business selling marijuana cookies. And it took off. So go back, you guys, listen to John Flynn from last week because it really is a great story. And if and when I ever have to live my life over, or I get to live my life over, I would like to be in New York City in my 20s because, in your 20s, you don't really care about your living situation as much, So, man, what a romp through New York. Now, my guest today, Lynn Catalano, you live in New York, don't you?
I do. But New York State, I live on the other side of New York City. So I live closer to Toronto than I do to New York City.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're north. Have you ever lived in the city?
No. I went to college in Boston. It was fabulous. Great time.
You are an attorney, and you are an attorney in New York State, as it were, yes?
Yes, correct. I took the bar exam, and I maintained my license.
That's amazing. To maintain your license, is it a lot of money? Because you have to keep paying that, continuing education stuff or something?
Yes. It's more doing the continuing ed and paying the money. But you know what? It was a lot of work to get there, so you keep doing it.
You just do it. Yeah, there's no way you're going to give it up. If you have to go to another state, you have to take that bar exam, right?
Yes, correct. Years ago, you could just pay the registration fees and waive into the state, but now they mandate that you sit for the other bar exams.
So if you're a lawyer in New York and then your family's going to move to California, would that make you nervous and upset because oh my God, I have to study again or not? Or do you think, I know that, I'll do it, or I can take the test?
No. Oh, no. The bar exam was the absolute worst experience of my life, and I think most attorneys would agree with that. It's awful. I would not want to do it again. Yes.
Do they have to go to that extent? My sister's a lawyer, and I remember her and the studying, and it was so long ago, but I do remember a little bit about her studying and the hours and how all the stress. Does it have to be like that? Is that just a game? What is that?
I don't know. I feel like I learned more in those, 12 or 14 weeks than I did in 3 years of law school. And, I mean, you learn for the exam, and you're cramming huge amounts of information for a 2-day exam, and it's a marathon. I was in the best physical shape of my life because I was so regimented. Every day I would go to class, and then I'd transcribe my notes, and I'd work out, and I was getting 8 hours of sleep. It was fantastic.
Yeah. When you treat your body well, and when you really do take care of yourself, it is amazing how much healthier you can be. If you think about it, if you think about what is going into my body right now, you can get a lot healthier.
However, because now I look back, I had no husband, no children. I had no pets. No one else depended on me for anything. And I didn't even prepare my meals. I moved back home. My mother took care of me. She was making dinner and food shopping. And for those 12 weeks, amazing.
That is so sweet. That's such a kind thing to do for your child. I don't think I have a child. I don't think they're going to be taking a bar exam anytime soon. But hey, you never know. So let me get this straight then. You're a lawyer in New York State, but what city are you in?
So I am near Niagara Falls or Buffalo, New York, Western New York.
That cracks me up, Niagara Falls, because my parents went on their honeymoon in Niagara Falls in 1955, and they got married July 3rd, and my dad didn't make reservations for the weekend, so they get to Niagara Falls and everything's booked, of course, I forget where they ended up staying. But then my family, I'm from Pittsburgh, they continued to go up to Niagara Falls. That is a touristy place, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, the city of Niagara Falls is really, tourism is the number one industry for sure. Mm-hmm. But I live a little bit north of the city, and sometimes I feel like Sarah Palin, but I can actually see Canada from my house.
Yeah, you are north. You are far north. So can you just tell us I haven't been to Niagara Falls since I was a child. I can picture, I'm the youngest of 6 and my parents, and I can picture all 8 of us. There's a picture of us lined up at the falls, and I'm sitting on the ground in the front, picking my nose or something. Because like I said, we would vacation there. So what's the deal? What do you do? You go to Niagara Falls, and then what happens?
So, you can see the falls. There's a couple different interesting attractions, right? There's Cave of the Winds, where you can walk along the side of the cliffs of the falls themselves. You can take the boat, the Maid of the Mist, under the water.
Oh, yeah. And then they put on those raincoats. Everybody gets a raincoat. Yes, I do remember. Oh, my gosh, that makes me want to cry. The Maid of the Mist, is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And we have a new thing in the lower Niagara River. There's a jet boat now that goes very fast in the lower rapids. So it's really kind of cool.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So there's lots of things, but beautiful greenery and beautiful trails, beautiful parks.
So then it's miniature golf and fudge and taffy.
Pretty much.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, we don't have to talk about Niagara Falls, but it just is like a childhood memory, man. It cracks me up.
Wow.
So you are such an interesting person. And, usually I have comedians on the show, but I also have a lot of other really bright and exciting people. Trust me. But I'm just saying, you don't have to be funny. That's why I'll tell you that right now. Although I think you are funny. Now, today you bring forth the topic, discovering my father is a narcissist. And I have had some narcissism in my life. I dated a narcissist, and I didn't really understand that until, after we split up. But it was truly, he was unable to have any interest in me at all. I remember one time, it's not that long ago, it was maybe only 6 years ago, we were on this cruise ship. He was a comedian, a kind of a famous comedian, and I was the girlfriend. And he said to me, and I know I'd been drinking or whatever, but I remember him saying to me, Christine, I'm going to do his accent because I don't give a damn. Christine, you'll be perfect. You are beautiful. You are funny. You'll be perfect. But you just, you talk too much. You want to be center. But you be perfect. But any man be with you. but you got to stop with the comedy. Like, basically, just stop being who you are. Could you do that? Is that a problem? Because if you could just stop being who you are, Lynn, then you could marry, a senator. Why don't you want to do that? Or why don't you want to be, what I mean? He's basically telling me, don't be yourself. And I know I was buzzed, but that hit me so hard, like, oh my God, you're out of your fucking mind. And then this guy, he was older than me, like 15 years older than me, and he ghosted me like a millennial. So then he's gone for like 3 months. He comes back into town and he asks me to go to lunch. So I have understood exactly what has been going on now, right? And I get it. So I decide, you know what? I'll go to lunch with you. Sure, why not? And we go to lunch and he's talking. And then finally toward the end of the meal, because I ate the meal, he says to me, so what's going on? What's happening? What's happening? New Year's Eve coming up. What's happening? And I just look, I laid into him, but it had been planned. So it was pretty tight. It was low. It wasn't a screaming thing, but I was like, who do you think you are? You come from nothing. I come from nothing. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, but who do you think you are? And I laid into him, right? And so then I pick up my keys and my purse and I get up, and I'm like, basically like, you're out of your mind. He hugs me, okay? And he goes, Christine, I'm sorry. Listen, I know you're upset. I know. But let me ask you, I have new trip to Mexico. It's 2 weeks. We take cruise, same cruise. We take cruise to Mexico. And I look at him like, you didn't even hear me. You wacko. Fucking wacko, man. And that's the last time I talked to him. Is that a narcissist?
Yes. Why? Because they don't care about you or your emotions. They're irrelevant unless they are part of what's benefiting them.
It's so crazy. Because as a person who was dealing with this person, I thought, this is odd, but, he is sort of famous and, he's the headliner and, and I was doing his social media, by the way. So I was helping him. He was paying me. Anyway. Oh boy. And I've read your new book and I'm so excited about it, by the way. So great. Congratulations on your new book. It's called Wrecking Ball Relationships, How to Identify, How to Live With or Leave the Narcissist in Your Life. And I'll tell you what, man, tremendous book. I love the cover as well. You're not a psychologist. Like, how did you write this?
So it's interesting. I do have a BA in psychology, but then I went and got a law degree.
By the way, I have a BA in psychology too, Lynn. And I'm in my closet podcasting, so whatever.
So, I never thought I would use it. My goodness, right? So then I spent more than 20 years in organizational leadership, leading not-for-profits, fundraising, running those nonprofits. And at some point, two things happened for me. One, I was in a very toxic workplace situation, working for a very toxic leader. Mm. And at the same time, I was putting together the pieces of who my father really was. And it occurred to me that toxic leaders are just narcissists. That's how they manifest in the workplace. They have very similar, yet slightly different characteristics. And I realized that when you're coping with them, I have some strategies to cope with them. I talk about them in the book. And but when you have a narcissist that you're related to, it's a little different. So at that point, I thought that the universe was trying to tell me that through my research and writing this book and interviewing lots of people who had different relationships with narcissists, I realized I knew an awful lot about this subject matter. And perhaps it was time for me to start speaking and training and guesting on podcasts, and I haven't looked back since.
In other words, like you decided, I am an authority on this. I'm going to start talking about it. And then in conjunction, you started writing the book?
Yes, I was actually more than halfway done with the book at that point. But yes,
Wow.
Absolutely.
So it must have been easy for you to write then. Was it easy to write?
Yes, it was easy to write because I had been writing about my own journey for more than 10 years, as it was a catharsis for me. Mm-hmm. But then I didn't want it to be a memoir. I wanted it to be a guide for people going through the same type of experience.
Yeah. You give so many wonderful examples in the book. You know, you talk about, especially family members where this gets really, really tricky when you have a big family or a small family. I guess it doesn't really matter. But, you know, one of them is just not in touch. And I'm going to read from what I've seen from what you've talked about. I heard you on another podcast, by the way, and it was about toxic relationships in the workplace. That to me would even be more of a nightmare because you have to go there. You do have to deal with them. Whereas family members, I just fucking moved. Do you know what I mean? But if it's your job, you're screwed because you do have to work around it. So here's some of the things you say. They tend to only speak about themselves. Yeah, of course. They never ask you open-ended questions like, in my opinion, they're kind of always looking over your shoulder, who else is coming in the room, and they don't really care what you're talking about or what you say back. You could just start talking and say a nursery rhyme, and they would say, because they're not listening. They're judgmental, they're manipulative, they have to control every situation. They never accept responsibility for their actions. Yeah, that's the fucking worst right there. They feel entitled to all the attention all the time. And so those are some really specific definitions. Why was it important for you to identify your father as this? Like, why did it matter later in life? You're already grown.
Well, I didn't discover it until my mother very suddenly passed away. I thought I had Ward and June Cleaver were my parents. When I was in college, I thought, oh my gosh, you know, my one friend's parents are divorced and the father left. And my other friend, her father was deceased and her mother had some issues. I thought I have the most normal parents ever. And then my mother dies. I'm an only child. And now it's as if the smoke and mirrors are gone.
Wow.
And, you know, that first year, I wanted to, you know, wrap my father in my family. You know, I was married and had two small daughters at the time. And so I just tried to pull him in because that was like my inclination, right? That was what you do.
I always wanted to have a grandparent living with me, like in a back house that I don't have to really talk to, but they'll do things for me. I've always wanted that. You know, like on Modern Family or something. You know what I mean? Like you'll see that on TV. Like, oh, there's an old crotchety guy in the back, but he's very helpful. I want that.
Yeah. Well. The things he did during that first year were odd, and it left me confused and lost. And so I kept thinking, this is grief. I don't know what grief looks like. Grief is different for everybody. It must be grief. But then it continued, and it got worse. And the things that happened left me thinking, what's happening? And then I did something that I now tell my clients or anyone I'm advising is a red flag. I Googled my father's symptoms because I didn't know what was happening. And so I kept thinking, if I had a book that could tell me what these types of things, what's happening? Why is he doing this? What's going on? What are typical behaviors? You know, he was doing things like where he was gaslighting me, but I didn't know what gaslighting was. Mm-hmm. You know, too often now that's in our vernacular. Mm-hmm. There's a new movie out called Gaslight. I mean, there's all kinds of things. People use it very loosely.
In my world, it's a newer term. I never really understood gaslighting. You know what I mean? It's subtle. It's nuanced.
It's from 1944. There was a movie about a man who would turn the gas lights. He would turn the lights down and dim the lights. And the wife would say, "Why is it so dark in here?" And he'd say, "It's not dark. What's wrong with you?"
What?
And so
Are you
that's
kidding me?
where the term comes from. That's what gaslighting means. So gaslighting is where they present a different reality than you experienced and tell you how wrong you are. So, these things were happening and I thought, what's going on? Like, who can tell me what's wrong? And, I'm very close to my mother's sister who was around for the whole time of my parents' relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I spoke to her all the time. But, my father was terrible to my mother's family. So they just didn't like him at all. But what I now am able to dissect is that he was a bully to them from day one. Mm. And that's narcissists are bullies, know?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So for me, figuring out and uncovering it was like peeling back the layers of an onion to figure out who this person really was. Wow. And, there's some crazy validation in knowing that other people saw this odd behavior.
Oh, God, yeah.
Witnessed
it. Yes. Did you have the term, when did you get the term narcissism? I mean, you heard about it in college.
Yes, but it's minimal.
Yeah, and you didn't put it on to anybody. You didn't think in your life like, okay, who could be a narcissist in my life?
Not at all, because I saw him the way my mother wanted me to see him.
Yes.
So probably between 5 and 6 years after she was gone, did I put everything together and realize who he was.
Does your father now know? Does he know about the book? Does he know about what you're speaking about?
Yes, and we have no contact.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's awful. But I think I grieved that relationship.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and everybody in my audience knows it. I hope they know it. You have to take care of your own mental health first, no matter what. No matter who the other person is. If you don't have your shit together, it's like the oxygen mask in the plane. You put your oxygen mask on first, then you figure out what else you can do. But you have got to get your mental health in check. And if you associate yourself or you let yourself be in the presence of somebody like this, a narcissist, then you're not doing yourself any favors. You're hurting yourself. So get yourself out of the relationship, and who cares what they think of you? You just have to create the distance. It's just the way it goes.
I spend a lot of time talking about that in the book because I think it's so important. These types of toxic relationships take a toll on your mental and your physical health.
Physical too, sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I went through plenty of sleepless nights. Here we talked about during the bar exam how great I was about exercise and sleep and nutrition. And it's like when I was experiencing these dramatic, depressing downs and lows with my father,
sure,
I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating right. I was in a state of hypervigilance all the time. That is like a fight or flight in your body. Your adrenaline is pumping because the anxiety is high when you're around this person and their triggers and you don't want to set them off or offend them or have them go into a rage.
It's a whole job. Your whole job of your whole life is making sure that other person doesn't lose it. And it's like, it's insane to try to help somebody. You're not a clinical, whoever that person is. Like, I can't help you. You're out of your fucking mind. So you say in the book.
It's
exhausting. So you say in the book, at the end of the day, the last resort is going no contact. And that's it. They're out.
Yep.
And, even my past boyfriend, I'm friends with I'm friends with my ex-husband. I'm friends with all sorts of guys I've gone out with before, and not that guy. It's no contact. There's no way. He's out of his freaking mind. And listen, we're going to get over to your story in 1 second, but I did want to mention something else that I really enjoyed in the book. And you talk about, I know. That narcissists will text you or call you at completely inappropriate times. Why do they do this? Because they don't give a damn. They don't care if they're waking you up at 7 a.m. on Sunday. They don't care if it's 11 p.m. They're not at all thinking of where you are or what you're doing. Even the texting, texting at 2 a.m. And it's not just a booty call. It's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm talking? You wrote it,
Also, don't forget, their ideas are the most important, and they need to share them immediately because they need you to validate them right away.
Insane. Yeah, just horrible people. And, this is a great book. I'm so happy you wrote it. And we're going to get over to your story in 1 second. But before we do, I wanted to remind everybody that we are playing Story Smash, the storytelling game show, every month at the Hollywood Improv. The next show is May 28th. Head over to storysmashshow.com and get more information. And, of course, follow Story Smash on Instagram at Story Smash, because that's where I post all the very, very exciting show pictures. That's where the action is. All right, you guys, she's here right now. You hear her talking. Lynn Catalano. She is a licensed attorney in New York, and she's a speaker, and she is a professional trainer, and she coaches, and she is the author of Wrecking Ball Relationships, How to Identify, How to Live with or Leave the Narcissist in Your Life. I'll tell you what, it is a great book, you guys. You won't believe when you read this book the people in your life you'll identify. It's not going to be 10 people, but it's going to be 2 or 3. You're going to be like, oh, that's what was going on with that teacher. Or that's what was going on with that guy I dated. That's him. Or that's her. So it's kind of neat. You can find more out about Lynn over at her website, lynncatalano.com. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for the very talented Lynn Catalano.
Well, thank you so much. When I was first trying to figure out what was happening with my father, things he would say or do would make me look around as if there were hidden cameras. I felt like I was even on that MTV show from a while ago, Punk'd. Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out sometime. But, it started happening right after my mother died. So here, my mother died, 66 years old, and she was very involved in the community. So many people came to the funeral, and we were very, honored by their respect. I don't know. I find that the grieving process for me was rather private, and I don't know that I had a lot of privacy during that time. But, you honor those other people and their stories. And so the place we had the funeral was our synagogue, and it has since closed. We didn't have enough members in Niagara Falls any longer, and so it no longer exists. And it closed. It closed about 2 years probably after she passed away. Mm-hmm. So these people were standing room only. That's how many people were at her funeral. Nice. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm riding in the car with him days after the funeral. And he turns to me and he says, I don't know where you're going to have my funeral. If that many people showed up for Mom, I can't even imagine how many will come for me. Wow. And I thought, I'm sorry, what? What? Who says that? What are you talking about? Okay, so, and there's no one there but me, right?
Right.
And then another time, narcissists are not able to exhibit any kind of empathy. And I know you said that in your list. And that is a benchmark of all narcissists. Mm-hmm. And you really, it's hard to believe, you can read it in a list, but I'm telling you, try it on someone that you think may or may not have these tendencies, because it exists. I promise you, they are completely unable. So my mother passed away congestive heart failure, and she had a massive stroke. And so we didn't even know she had congestive heart failure. That was a big surprise. So probably about a year and a half after she passed, I started to develop a rapid heartbeat and I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest. So I went to see my primary care doctor. He did an EKG and he said, you're going to have to go see a cardiologist. Well, now I'm really frightened, right? So I was so happy that my husband was in the room. So my father comes over and I said, Dad, I'm really frightened. I have these things here, I just lost my mother. Obviously, he knows that part, right? And I said, I'm really frightened. I have to go to see a cardiologist. And he goes, yeah, I know. My back's been killing me. So I was happy. I was happy for the witness, right? I was happy that I had that.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but
no.
It really is true. I mean, this really can happen. So he says, my back. You've talked about
my heart. His back is killing him. And I thought, okay. Like, again, I didn't know at that point this was called narcissism. I didn't know that he suffered from this and that he was disordered. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff. So, take two. He's now giving me the silent treatment for years, okay? And my father is a professional at giving the silent treatment. He gave it to people all the time, but I think it's hard to believe that you would give your only child the silent treatment, not for weeks and months, but for years.
Oh, my God.
And he didn't speak to my children during that time, his only grandchildren. Like, it wasn't just that he walked away from me. So now it's my youngest daughter's bat mitzvah, and we have no contact. We're not speaking. But I feel such obligation and such guilt that I invite him. And I think in the back of my mind, maybe this is the opportunity, like this is the olive branch, right? Even though I didn't walk away from him, I didn't do anything. Maybe he'll say, enough, we should settle this, we should have communication. So I invite him. He sends back his reply card that he's coming. He never reaches out to any of us. He never tries to contact any of us. So the big day comes, and certainly there's a lot of stress involved with the ceremony and her obligations and her responsibilities and everything. So he's there, sitting there at the ceremony, doesn't say a word to anybody, not to her, not to me, not to my other daughter, my husband, nobody. Has lunch like a regular guest. So now the evening party comes. Now I hire a professional photographer, as you do for these things. And I've known her for a long time. I had used her when I was at one of the hospital foundations running black tie events. She was my photographer.
Sure.
So my father had met her before. So he calls her over, the photographer. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking he wants to have her take some pictures of him and his granddaughters or him and his daughter, right? You would be wrong. He asks her. He asks her. It's hard for me to even say this, but I think it's hilarious. And I don't know this that night. I learned this afterwards. He asks her to take some photographs of him walking, laughing, posing, professional, like a photo shoot.
Oh my God. It's so crazy. So what did she say? What did your friend say?
So she doesn't tell me that night, which is probably better.
Yeah, because you're celebrating. Yeah.
So he leaves again. No conversation with any of us. Nothing.
Wait, did he come into any of the family photos when you were like doing family photos?
None.
What a bizarre person.
Nothing. So now the photographer calls me like 2 weeks later to tell me that the photos are going in my Dropbox account, and, she's looking for final payment. And so while we're talking, she says to me, "Oh, I need your father's email so I can send him these photos." And I said, "What are you talking about?" Cheryl. And she says, well, I took these photos for your father. You'll see them in the Dropbox account. But I promised him that I would get them to him. And I said, I'll take care of it. And she said, no. I told him. And I said, Cheryl, I hired you and I'm paying you. I'll take care of it. Yeah. And so I have those lovelies. I, of course, never shared them with him.
Absolutely
because
not.
What the fuck, right?
What is wrong with him? He had her take like a portfolio of him.
Right.
That is unbelievable. What does your husband say? Like, is he like, oh my gosh?
He watched me be very hurt and very wounded many times. And so, the worst thing that I have thought about recently is that every time I went back to my father, which was many times during the last 12 years, because I held out hope that I wanted this to work and I didn't want to abandon this relationship.
And you're talking about maybe even just a relationship of a card a year or just a card to your children for their birthdays. Like you don't really want to be in his life.
Well, I don't. Certainly not at this point, but I tried. I will tell you, yeah. I tried repeatedly. I was like a glutton for punishment, but every time I did that, my husband and my daughters had to pretend that everything was rainbows and unicorns, and like he'd come to dinner, and they'd know that they hadn't had any contact with him for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
and I
had to treat it like no big deal.
Yeah. So now I feel like that guilt from forcing them to do that. But, they completely understand when I tell you that these are 3 of the most self-aware, selfless people in my life.
Oh,
because
you're so lucky.
That's who you need. That's who you need in your boat, all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. And at least if everybody can laugh about it,
Yes, we do.
It's so interesting that it truly is a disorder. And the people that are narcissists, they don't know it. Or like if you gave them that description and they would say what?
Oh, that's not me. That's not me. I don't do that. You must be talking about someone else. They would not. They have no self-awareness and they have very, very low emotional intelligence.
Does anybody who has narcissism go to therapy to try to get rid of it? Like they do know it or they are trying to help themselves. Does that ever happen in therapy? Do you know?
I do think that there are some people who seek help. I don't want to overgeneralize that no one seeks help, but it is the one disorder where the victims of their abuse are more likely to seek professional therapy than they are.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks, man. Because like, even now it's kind of like, as it were, it's behind you, and especially because you wrote the book, now you're out there pitching it, you're talking about it. So it's definitely way behind you. But even these memories and having to talk about it, that's like a pain right there. And it's like, if had he not had this disorder, you wouldn't have to have gone through all of what you've gone through. So it affected you greatly. But maybe we should look at it like he doesn't know any better, or could he have had like a medication that would kind of help even that out? Does that exist?
There is no medication for it. However, there are lots of pharmacological recipes for assistance in different types of disorders. So I'm sure that they could try different things. Yeah. But he would never do that. But, I spent a lot of time identifying what he had, but I didn't realize how much PTSD I suffered as a result of it. And, they call this state of hypervigilance, when you deal with someone like this, walking on eggshells.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I didn't realize that's how I had spent my life, trying to make sure. I remember telling my husband before he would come over, hey, don't bring up this because, he gets really upset when you talk about this, or don't talk about I mean, can you imagine?
No, I can imagine, because recently there's been a director in my life, not working with, well, I have been working with her, but anyway, she's this way, and she just wants to throw glances around the room and make people jump. And actors, excuse me, all of my actor friends, but let's face it, they're the neediest people of all. Perhaps more than comedians. I don't know. But they're just like little puppies waiting for her to shoot a glance, and then they'll move. You can walk in the room, nobody speaks, and you couldn't get through the room with a knife because it's the air. It's so fucking thick. And I hate those people because they're carrying with them the weight of just like the bowels of hell. And wherever you are around them, they're going to put you in that space unless you get out of the plate. You have to truly remove yourself from their presence.
Wow.
It sucks. Like, it's just it's a really upsetting way to be. And there's a lot of acting teachers that are like this. They like to pull the kids in, in these acting classes, a lot of scamming going on, and, just make them feel like shit, make them cry, make them go back to childhood, just for their own.
Terrible.
I don't know. Maybe I'm going off, but I'm just saying there are so many narcissists out there, and you do give some more suggestions in the book on how you can peacefully coexist with them, if you have to. The one is set boundaries and stick to them. So that's always so important. I remember I had a sister who was very controlling like that, and I would see the phone. This is years ago. And I would see the phone ringing. I would see her name on the phone. And I would have to say to myself, okay, pull yourself together because this is going to be an ask. And I'd say, hello. And she would say, in essence, can you babysit Friday night? And I'd say, no, I can't. I have plans. And then she'd say, well, where are your plans? Well, what time are they? Well, that's not a problem because I can just drop them off and then I'll pick them up and whatever. And I'd say, okay, I'll see you Friday. Bye. And I hang up and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm babysitting Friday. Like they have this way of just flipping it.
Master manipulators.
So that first way to peacefully coexist, set boundaries, stick to them.
I find that if you have a finite period of time that you're going to spend with this person, and my recommendation is always to go to a restaurant instead of having them at your house, because restaurants you have to leave, Your house, they might be too comfortable and they might stay too long. Right. I also used to pick, the things that I did during this period of time didn't even clue me into who he was. I would pick a restaurant that we didn't have to ride in the same car to, that we could drive ourselves, that was close enough. I mean, that was my thinking.
You have to plan it out and never go to their house. If you go to their house, you're in big trouble. That same sister I have that is difficult. You would try to leave her house and she'd be running after you. Wait, let me give you one more Diet Coke for the road. No, hang on. Let me give you more. Because they don't want you to go because they need you to feed their illness.
It's awful. I find that the less you see them, the more tolerable they are to you. And that's both personal and professional. And certainly in a professional setting, I would never tell you to be insubordinate and not attend a meeting. But if you can attend the meeting on your computer or on the phone, or you don't have to physically be there, do so. Because again, it makes it easier to tolerate that person when you're not with them.
And then you have a few other things. Try not to engage, obviously. Don't even talk to them. Limit your contact with them. Make sure to have your support network, which, like you're saying, you've got your family. And then number 5, like I said, the last thing is no contact. But let's say you are at work, or let's say you are in a place where let's say you are at work or a place where you have to interact with them. I also think, like, if they text you, don't text back right away. Breathe. You know what I mean? Don't fucking jump when they call. If the phone rings and you're not expecting their call, let it go to voicemail. Just really don't be the dog they want you to be.
I agree completely, but I will tell you, I did work for someone that was so toxic that he later complained that I wasn't responsive to his 3 p.m. Saturday texts or, 7 p.m. Friday texts, or because I didn't go for it because I wasn't paid to be on call 24 hours a day. Oh, my gosh. That was what he expected. So,
yeah. And then that was the way. And I remember that comedian friend I used to date, that guy. he would let people sucker him. I mean, he would never get suckered, but he would let them lead. Like he would let, like, let's say, like a manager or an agent or somebody who wanted to do photos for him or social media. He would let them talk to him because they would all butter him up, give him all these compliments because they wanted to work with him. And in the very end, he would say, well, let's talk tomorrow. Let's talk again, because he wants to hear all that again. He's never going to hire them because he doesn't need them. But he wants, oh, give me another idea. What else would you do? Oh, really? Oh. And so he's like taking people's ideas, basically stealing. And then in the end, he's not hiring them.
Right.
Oh, it's so gross. And then I feel so stupid because he was paying me to do social media and I needed the money. I'm a single mom. So I feel like I got suckered the whole flippin' way. It's upsetting. And I also get bummed real quick. And I swear I'll stop. But it's also upsetting because this is happening in my 40s. Like, Jesus Christ, have I not learned anything? Like, why do we make the same mistake over and over again?
Because I think that we want to see the good in someone. And we continue to hold out hope that they'll be that person, that they're not actually this terribly toxic human being, that there is good in them. And we want to make the relationship work. I hate to say that's a women are from Venus, men are from Mars thing. But I mean, I just think that why did I stay for so long? Why did I keep going back? Albert Einstein is credited with saying this, but so are like 12 other people. So I don't know who actually said it, but when you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Right. That's what I felt like. I just kept going back and saying, okay, I know you're not going to apologize and you're not going to take responsibility, but I want you to be my father and I want you to be in my life. So let's make this work. I'll do whatever I have to do. How many times?
It's so upsetting.
It's like giving someone bullets after they missed you, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. It's a deep topic, man. It's a very deep topic dealing with people who are narcissists because they're playing tricks on you and you don't even know it. And, then money gets involved. If money gets involved, that was my part of my thing. And it was like, then everything is clouded. And I was not being, I was not treating myself well. I'll tell you that, oh man, very, very toxic. Well, thank you for writing this wonderful, wonderful book. I'm telling you, it's called Wrecking Ball Relationships, How to Identify, How to Live With or Leave the Narcissist in Your Life. And it is just a dynamite book, you guys. Check it out at lynncatalano.com. You can find out more information. And where are you on social media? Because I think I've seen you on Insta.
So I'm on Insta at Lynn Catalano Speaks. I'm on TikTok at Lynn Catalano Speaks. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'm on Twitter. You can find me everywhere. So.
That's the best. Well, you are kicking ass in Niagara Falls. Woo! Niagara Falls, man. I would love, love, love to come back there. I would. That would crack me up. Yeah, play some miniature golf, get some fudge, take the Maid of the Mist, have a little taffy.
Come to Canada.
Yeah. What's the drinking situation between Niagara Falls, the Canada, the Buffalo, New York? What's that?
The drinking age there is 19, and the drinking age here is 21. So I got to tell you, funny. When I was a teenager, we spent a whole lot of time in Niagara Falls, Ontario. But then, 9/11 happened and you got to have a passport to cross the border and the whole thing. So I don't think that's what my daughters do now, unfortunately. But we had a lot of fun.
I bet. Oh, I bet. Well, it's like here in Southern California going down to Tijuana. What a laugh,
Right.
And New York State, you guys have not legalized cannabis yet, have you? Or have you?
No, we have. We have, but it's as only New York can do. It's quite complicated. You still need to have a medical reason, but it is legal, and they legalized certain people to have to grow throughout the state.
Oh, that's
it was
good. Yeah.
Incredibly political, as you can imagine.
Stupid. And what's the situation in Canada with cannabis?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's legal. I would think Canada is always a much more liberal country than we are, although...
Oh, yeah.
So I would think it was legal.
One more thing. I got to wrap this up, but one more thing. I remember hearing about how the tax was so high in the tax was so high in Canada that people would come down and do their clothes shopping in New York because there's no tax in New York. And then when they go back over to Canada, they have to wear all those clothes that they bought because you can't claim all those clothes. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
However, I tell you, during the pandemic, it was devastating because the border was closed for a really long time. Yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, like our shopping malls and our supermarkets and our restaurants really took a hit because not only, was it pandemic and people weren't eating out, but they didn't have any of the Canadian business that they had for so long. We're back now, like it's all open, everything's open, only for the last 3 months or so has it been open. But if you go to the supermarkets that I go to, there's probably a third of the people in the supermarket at one time are Canadian. And the shopping mall is just about all Canadian. They literally bring in busloads of people from Canada.
What is the tax on their...
Oh, they have 2 or 3 different levels of tax. And in the parking lot of the shopping mall are always the boxes and the bags because they take everything out so it doesn't look brand new.
But every single border crosser guy, though they all know what's going on.
I'm sure they all know. Yes, I'm sure. When I was a kid, it was the fuel crisis. And so Canadian gas was cheaper. And so I remember going with my mother, crossing the border to buy gas. Can you imagine?
So funny. Yeah, no, very, very funny. That's kind of neat when you live on a border like that, in terms of the trade. See, what you're up there in Canada, it's a little friendlier. Down where I am, it's not quite as, it's a more complicated, but whatever. Anyway, you are a delight. What a fun podcast. This was a great episode. I really love talking to you. So thank you again very much.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, make sure you get out there and purchase Lynn's book, Wrecking Ball Relationships. I love that. And you can find more about Lynn over at her website. Like I said, LynnCatalano.com. And don't forget to follow her on Twitter at Lynn Catalano Speaks and everywhere else, really, at Lynn Catalano Speaks. And make sure you follow me over there as well at Storyworthy. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Lynn Catalano. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Well, that was so fun.
You can follow me. I'll take you down to the river. Follow me. I'll keep you silent.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
I'll keep you satisfied.
Dad deserves double the thanks this year, so this Father's Day, give him the power tool system that has everything for every job. The Ryobi One Plus tool system now on special buy. Over 260 Ryobi tools powered by one interchangeable 18-volt battery. And for a limited time, when you make a qualifying Ryobi purchase, you get one select tool or battery free. Feels like Father's Day at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid through July 31st, 2022. Valid at participating stores and online. Limit 1 per transaction.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a karate teacher to trim their hedges.
Hey-ya! Man, these shrubs are not made of plywood. Don't worry, another few chops should do it. Yeah! Nope! Yeah! Dang!
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Oh, this treehouse looks like particle board. Yeah! There we go. I'm starting to doubt myself.
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
Things have been difficult for many of us, but with Cerebral, high-quality mental health care is accessible and affordable. Cerebral provides therapy, counseling, coaching, and medication management, all online, so you can get mental health care from the comfort of your own home. For listeners of this program, you can receive 65% off your first month at Cerebral.com/wellness. Again, that's Cerebral.com/wellness for 65% off your first month. Join Cerebral's mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all.
Dad is the smartest guy you know, so give him a gift that's just as smart, like a battery-powered smart doorbell from Google Nest that lets him see what's happening at his door and answer it from anywhere. The Google Nest doorbell is now on special buy for only $129.99 and works on any home. Find the best and smartest gifts for Dad. Feels like Father's Day at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid through June 19, 2022 at participating U.S. stores and online. Limit 5 per customer.